Alright, now we're at season 15, a season that is considered to be the worst season of the entire Thomas franchise. I agree that it is one of the worst seasons of the show, but is it the worst? Spoiler alert, no it isn't. Why? Watch the video to find out. I'm running out of things to say, just watch it and get out of here. For the first time since season 2, I believe, we get a multi-part arc. So already this season has some potential. Gordon and Ferdinand is a decent start to the season. Pairing Gordon and Ferdinand up is an interesting idea, and I think it was executed alright. It could have been better in a lot of areas, but with what we got, it was alright. And for once, Ferdinand finally says more than just, "That's right." This episode goes in the decent tier. Toby and Bash is mixed. While I do kinda like the first half of the episode, it's the other half that drags it down for me. I feel this episode should have been solely focused on the first half alone, but hey, at least Toby's character is an improvement from the previous 4 seasons. This goes in the okay tier. Out of the Logging Locos trilogy, Emily and Dash is the worst. Before Bubba, this was the most unrealistic episode in the whole show. I mean, how can a whistle warble like a bird? And why would Emily just leave Dash in the middle of the line? I also cringe whenever I see the faces in this episode. I place this episode in the bad tier. What even is Percy's new friends? What is the message here? You can make friends with animals as long as you're quiet about it? Nothing! It taught us nothing! Or at least, it didn't teach me anything. This episode goes in the bad tier. I kinda like Edward the hero. I think if you get rid of the bit with Edward wanting to be the strong, fast, and stern rescue engine, and he doubts himself, it could work. I place it in the good tier. James to the Rescue is an okay episode. For the first time since season 3, I believe, we get an episode where James and Toby are the main characters, and both engines are decently in character. This episode does have some dumb points, but it is nothing compared to some of the other episodes in this season. I place this in the okay tier. Happy Hero had a good concept that was badly executed. If Hero misses his home that much, why doesn't he just return there? This episode goes in the poor tier. Up, Up, and Away sucks. It's boring, degrading, it makes no sense. Thomas is a generic nice guy. Percy is so stupid that I believe that his brain popped like a balloon, and Mr. Bubbles should have been dead by the end of this episode. This episode goes in the bad tier. Henry's Happy Cole is another episode I kinda like. Sure, the whole special Cole thing is still there, but I can look past it. I think Henry's characterized pretty well, and his dynamic with Ari and Bert is quite interesting. I put this episode in the good tier. Let It Snow is fine. I like how Gordon is basically a mood throughout this episode, but I don't like how the Misty Island Snow song isn't even a song. Surprise, Surprise is basically a worse version of The Party Surprise. Bad tier. Spencer the Grand is the best episode of the season. I think Spencer is characterized brilliantly and the fog is animated greatly, even though I can barely see anything. But I think that's the point of the episode. This episode goes in the good tier. Stop That Bus, on the other hand, is going in the bad tier. It sounds decent conceptually, but the execution sucks. Thomas is brain dead here, and Bertie didn't deserve any of the things he got here. Stuck on You is average at best. It was nice to see Butch finally have a speaking role after being a background character for so many years, and I like the subtle shaking that he does when he stops. I don't think they do that in the ARC Productions era, but the episode overall is boring and predictable, and it goes in the average tier. Big Belle is another decent episode. Belle is an alright character. I don't like her design, but I do like her basis and her theme, and I think her character here is alright. After 2 surprisingly good roles, Toby has reverted back to the character he was from the previous 4 seasons. Although I'm not really as offended, as it's just a side role. I put this episode in the decent tier. Kevin the Steamy is a worse version of Steamy Sodor, and I don't hate Kevin, but here he's just so reckless. The episode basically teaches kids that it's okay to play games in a dangerous area. Thankfully, I never got that lesson as a kid. I'd say this is worse than Up Up and Away. I think it's pretty obvious what's wrong with Wonky Whistle, bad tier. Percy the Snowman is the worst episode of the season. Thomas seriously needs to borrow Whiff's glasses. How does he not see a giant lump of snow that's right next to him? Bad tier. Tree Trouble is decent. There's nothing much to say about this episode. It's just alright. I place it in the decent tier. Fiery Flynn is a disgrace to firefighters everywhere, bad tier. Overall, this season is bad. There were a few good episodes, but the majority was either dumb or just plain boring. For having such great movies like Blue Mountain Mystery and Hero of the Rails, you'd think they could have written better episodes or at least make the engine smarter. The frustrating thing is that after rewatching this season, I see the potential for not a great season, but at least an okay one. The first 3 episodes feel like an arc focusing on the logging loco, each having them paired up with a STEAM team member. James to the Rescue has Toby and James being paired up for the first time in years. Happy Hero was a good concept for an episode. Hero visiting Misty Island because it reminds him so much of his home. Surprise, surprise, Stop That Bus and Stuck on You have Stanley, Birdie, and Butch finally speak for the first time in years. And in Butch's case, ever. Stop That Bus is also genuinely a good concept in general. Birdie visiting sites he couldn't see on the road. Season 15 had potential for a good season, but it's a bad season in execution. However, I don't think it's the worst season of the show. I definitely rank it above the whole Blubba era. This season goes in the bad tier. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next month for the season 16 review, and bye.